Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. I'm really glad you could join me, and just look what we've got here. 600 bulbs. We've got about 400 or 500 tulips, and the rest are daffodils or narcissus. These are all going to go into the borders, the pots and troughs, and you can imagine it's going to take quite some time. And we're nearly there with them, even though it's a bit late in the year, but it doesn't matter because they will grow and flower. I just want to show them all in situ, all the different varieties we've got. And there's so much to look forward to. So here are some more bulbs. These are from last year. You'll have seen these in my video growing in my garden, in the secret garden at home, and around the back in the pots and containers. What I do, I dig them out and I put them into pots in late spring when they're finished, put them into storage, feed them in September and put them round the other gardens. And what I do is get fresh ones for myself every year, just to make sure they're at the best and they're flowering really well. And these are the flowers from last year, which you'll see again in the Old Manor House gardens this next spring. So it's really what gardeners do. It's recycling, reusing, repurposing, and not being wasteful, because these bulbs are just as good as last year's and they'll do really well once they're in the ground and fed. And in this soil there's lots and lots of horse manure, well rotted, so I'm sure they'll do very well. And I really can't wait till spring to see how it does. So what I'm doing today is planting lots of tulips and daffodils in the pots and the ground too. These are tulip yellow crown, and we've got narcissus fragrant spring. So hopefully you get the colour and the flowers and the scent as well. And I put these next to the bench in the old walled garden. I think that would look really nice, and when you sat there and it's a warm day, you'll get the scent. So first thing to do is plant the tulips. It says on the packet 10 to 15 centimetres deep, which these are. And this is our lovely homemade compost. All the garden waste we make goes into making fresh compost for ourselves to use. So I put them in and put more compost on top. Then I add the daffodil bulbs, which need to be a little bit higher up, and scatter on some more compost and some granular feed, and that'll keep them going till spring. And here we are in the front garden of the Old Manor House. These are the two tall urns, which are good for me because I'm a tall person. So this is really nice to have something at my height. So I'm putting in some more tulips and daffodils with the same method, and a bit more granular feed there. That'll just keep them going. This is 6-month feed, and that'll keep them going till the spring and keep them nice and strong, so we can dig them up later and replant them next year. So I do put the compost back in. What I tend to do later on is put some violas or pansies or primulas and things like that to beef it up, make it more colourful. But for now I don't think the weather's good enough and the plants won't survive or be the very at best. So we tend to do it in the spring, just to make sure everything's looking really nice and not waste them. And now we just top them up with a little bit fresh compost. This just keeps them going. We've run out of our own compost, so this just tops them up just by a couple of inches on this top surface. And so when we do put the annual bedding in the spring, this will really help them because it gets the fibrous roots going. Well, I'm sure you've done this before. You start with one job and end up doing another. So here I'm just raking the paths, getting rid of the leaves and bits of tree that have fallen down after the storms we had the other weekend, keeping it nice and tidy. And it's good to keep on top of things so it doesn't get too much and build up. So this is a good way of making your bulb pile go down very quickly. You put a lot into one border. There's about 60 or 70 going into this one. I've already dug the holes, they've all gone in. I'm just dropping the bulbs into the places and then I'm going to plant them in a very fast style. As you can see, I do work very quickly. So sometimes when you're digging you find bits of treasure, and here I come across a piece of old clay pipe, a tobacco pipe which somebody's obviously dropped in the olden days, a couple of 100 years ago maybe, and we tend to find these quite a lot in the gardens. I do at home as well, with being an old street. And here is one of my thrifty methods. If you've got a big garden, or any garden in fact, the forget-me-nots you'll notice will self-seed quite easily if you let them, and not weed around them too much. So you let them grow, and then in the autumn you can dig them up and move them to where you want them to be. This is what I do every year, and I make a really good display. We line the driveway with them, we line all the paths with them, and it's cost us absolutely nothing, just a little bit of time and effort, and it's worth it because they'll flower for at least 4 or 5 weeks during the spring and look really good. And here next to the white polyanthus, they really set it off, especially when the tulips grow with the different coloured flowers. And here we have some more forget-me-nots. These are in the walled garden. I tend to let them self-seed. It may look a little bit messy for a time, but I'll take all of these out and move them to where I want them to be. And it's easier than growing them in trays, and it's a good sustainable method of working. And say again, it's free, it costs you nothing, but you get all the benefit of it. Just a little bit of effort. So here I'm putting them into these quartered beds around the statues in the front garden. And the Verbena rigida there is not doing so well because it's winter, and hopefully that will come again in the next summer. So what will happen here, these forget-me-nots will grow through there like a network, like a little frame, and the tulips will come very soon, the white and orange, and they should look really, really pretty. And also don't forget to label your tulip bulbs, because if you don't, and if you're like me, you'll go along later, you'll start digging and put a spade through a lot of them and chop them into pieces and be really regretful. So this is a good method, and it's also helpful if people coming to visit, because they can also have a look and say, oh, I like that variety, and they make a note and they get theirs for next year. And I'll have a little tidy up afterwards so it looks nice and neat and presentable, and then you're done. Now I'm going to put some more bulbs into these end beds, the half moon shaped ones, putting 20 in each. There's already bulbs there. We've got some Narcissus Winston Churchill and some Narcissus Tate, and they'll flower at different times, make a really good display. So I'm just popping them in, and I think in a few weeks you'll start to see them coming through. Something to look forward to. Well, I think that concludes this episode. I look forward to seeing the next one. I hope you've enjoyed watching me planting bulbs. As you can see, it's quite a stately residence and it's a beautiful place to be. A very, very old house. It's 360 years old and going strong. And I can't wait to show you in a few weeks to see how everything's doing. Thanks for watching and happy gardening.